Aloha mai kako. My name is Rob Weltman, and I'm going to describe the project I chose to do for GIS 189. I work with very often on issues around land use change on Maui, like someone proposes a new development or changing a development or changing the zoning of an area, some other change which would affect more people than just the person who owns the lot. We need to investigate, is this a good idea or a bad idea? What are the implications for other people? Is it consistent with other designations for the land? For example, the state land use, the community plan use, the zoning. Typically, this is done using either the county's uh, property viewer, the TMK viewer, or with perhaps printed maps. And it involves sometimes identifying an area and then maybe several maps and then taking a screenshot and marking it up, sending it to someone else who might take a look at it and send it to someone else. And it's a fairly lengthy process, and things get lost in the translation when someone sends a screenshot to someone else. So obviously being able to use GIS would be a big advantage, but very few people know how to use GIS tools or use them effectively. And I think people would get overwhelmed if asked to use some of the ArcGIS tools. But anyway, I started off with ArcGIS map view, and it looks like this. I knew that there were a lot of very interesting and useful layers at the Hawaii State GIS portal. So I went there and I picked all the ones that covered Maui and it seemed to have something interesting. The next big issue was that there are so many layers that it would be a long, long list, and the poor user of this application would not know which one to choose or how to find them. So I wanted to group them very, very badly, but grouping of layers is not supported in the standard map view. You have to go to the beta map view to do that. It's a new feature they introduced last summer. And so this allowed me to define some groups, like here I have demographics, property owners, land use, etc. And then I could start pulling in the various layers that would be interesting, like zoning, etc. And property owners, that would be the parcel maps, demographics from the data.gov, and so on, and then some other very specific features. And then what I did is I shared this with a few friends who do the kind of thing that I'm talking about, community activism. And I wanted to see if this is too difficult, too cumbersome for them. And indeed, the feedback that I got was it is, because there are just too many buttons around on here on the side, too many different things you can change and get wrong, all these things on the left. And so they really just got in the way, and they made the process difficult for them rather than helping them. So then my next thought was, how can I do this other than using a map view, an ArcGIS map view? So on some investigation, I found that what you can do is you can use the ArcGIS JavaScript API to create a regular web application using JavaScript that pulls in the map view with the layers configured the way you wanted them to be. And it preserves the grouping, and if I expand the groups, then you can see it have the same layers as in the map view. And another thing is it also contains the symbology changes that I made in the map view. So I can change the colors and the opacity and many other things to so that they're more easy for people to use, and then they show up the same way in this web application. I added a button to show and hide the layer list. That was my own. These buttons are for measuring, like for measuring a distance or for measuring an area. Those are built in, so those are widgets I just added from Esri. Similarly for the zoom to my location, which tries to figure out where I am and then zooms there. So that's built in. And then also the widget here, export the map, so I can save this as a PDF, either just the map or the map with the overlays and other things on top of it. And then I added a feature called bookmarks, and bookmark then is, in my sense, is more than just a location, because I wanted to be able to also save the layers that the user has turned on or turned off. So I can go to a different layer and it'll show up pretty much the way the user saved it, with the zoom and the center point and the layers turned on or off. So if I wanted to create a new bookmark, I can then go turn off the county parcels, and let's say I want to go to say I want to go to Lanai, and right now it's showing water features and private and public roads, and it's also showing the Ahapua'a boundaries. But suppose I want to turn on the community plan designations for Lanai. So I can do that here, and then I can go back to bookmarks, and I can bookmark this location. Now I have 3 bookmarks, and I can go to any of those bookmarks. And then a little hidden features that I have a couple of keyboard shortcuts, so I can bookmark on the fly by hitting the bookmark, the B key, or I can cycle through the bookmarks, going to the next one by hitting the G key. So I could basically create a flyover. So each time it goes to a new bookmark, it recreates the layers which were saved with that particular bookmark. And then furthermore, in the bookmarks layer, I can copy the bookmark link to the clipboard and then send that to someone else. And then they can just go there in their browser. And what they see is not just the map, but they actually see things pretty much the way I left them, with the center and the zoom and all the layers that I chose, just like so it becomes a live bookmark, because they can still pan and zoom and change things off and on the way they want to, but at least initially they'll see things exactly the way I saved them. So that's what I have, and it works with any map view where the map view is public and all the layers that it's using are public. So I can use it with, I can just pass in a different ID to the application, and it will load that one instead. So I could have another one for Oahu or Kauai, or I could have an entirely different application, for example, demographics for the mainland USA or something like that, and then it would show up those layers, and all the functionality would still be there. So what's missing from my perspective, from the perspective of what I originally intended this for, was that there's no way for a user to mark things up, like to draw a line or to draw a polygon or to put text on here. That's not always part of a map program, but I think it would help a lot, because that way people could create a view which they could then immediately send to someone else, and that person could then see angles of the view, but also be able to pan and zoom and retain them, unlike when you take a screenshot and send that to someone else, because that's kind of read-only. If that gets implemented, there are other potential extensions, like I could make it so that bookmarks are shared. There's a public space for sharing bookmarks, so that when I change things there interactively, other people will see them. I don't need to send them a new link. It'll be kind of a whiteboard where people can make changes and other people see the changes immediately. Obviously, more layers. That's something that I want to wait and see what layers people are missing here. I really have almost all the interesting layers for this application domain, I think, from the state GIS portal, but there may be other places, and I also plan to do some excavation at the Maui County to see what additional layers they might have. But then there are also a whole slew of demographics layers at the data.gov, but I don't know yet which ones might be interesting for other people to use. Thank you for your attention, and ahui ho.